So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Thorsten, and I'm responsible for Acumatica in Asia, as most of you might know. And I did the first session already before. And my background actually is project management in ERP, and I'm doing this over 20 years now already. So, part of this training is for sure going with you through the theory and concepts and methodology, but I will try to bring some of the experience that I made in the past there in as well. So let's maybe recap a little bit first what we did so far. So we started 2 weeks ago with these sessions on a Friday with the initial introduction of our project methodology. And I provided this, and we had last week the session about project discovery. And following up on this one, actually, I sent today in the morning a new discovery template to your practice owner in your company. And I'm not sure if you have it already, but you will get it soon that you can use there as a template if you are doing discoveries. And we want to talk today about planning and monitoring, which is the main part and responsibility of a project manager in a project. I hope this will not be too long today, but I think it's a very, very important part of it to get this right in every project. So recap again our methodology, what we did on the first day. So this is what we are suggesting to do as different phases in your project implementation of Acumatica for your customer. We started, like I said, last week with discovery. Next week, Sergey will do the session about, Sergey Marinic out from Singapore, will do the session about analysis and build. And then we have a stabilize phase to stabilize the system, to do the testing together with the customer. We have the deploy phase to really get it live in the end, and then we have some go live support and task after it, which we will talk about in some of the follow-up sessions that we are having later. So today, like I said, we want to speak about plan and monitor, which is something relevant to all these phases that I just mentioned before. So something you as a project manager have to focus on during the whole duration of the project, from the initial discovery until the project closure in the very end. So what is this about? So the planning and monitoring phase, or like I said, it goes over all phases, will mainly focus on the topics that you see here, which are three. Number one is the project management. And like I said, I will go into these things a little bit more in detail. Project management, which mainly means scheduling the project, assigning the right resources, doing budget control the scope of the project, and so on. Then we have risk management, and I will talk about this a little bit later too, which means in the end to try to think about things that might happen. And I always call it have a plan B in place if this is really coming into play. So I will speak a little bit about this more too. And then the contract management, which is, like I said before, the controlling of the scope, maybe issuing of change requests if there are changes coming up in the project to the original contract. And for sure, one very important point, the invoicing for the services that you and your team are providing to the customer. So why is this important to plan and monitor the whole project? As a few points that I want to go through. So planning and monitoring, like I said, is during the whole project, from the very, very first, even before the kickoff meeting. Kickoff meeting, I will talk a little bit about this, is for me something very, very important in every project, because this is where you have the opportunity to set the expectations for everybody who is involved. to the project, so that nothing goes out of control or out of the trails when some of the users maybe have totally different expectations to what you are able to deliver. It will be, like I said, every aspect of the project will be included in what we are discussing here today. And this is your main responsibility, that all the deliverables that are agreed with the customer are in line with the project plan, with the resources that are assigned, and the overall execution of the project. You need to manage change. I mentioned this short before, which means always have an eye on your statement of work, contract agreement that you have with the customer, and is this what you are doing, or is this what the customer is requesting now? Is this really covered by the original scope? Why is this so important? The price your sales or management agrees with the end customer for the services is based on mandates, right? Even if you do a fixed price project, you estimate the mandates that are needed. So these mandates are estimated based on the scope that is agreed, which means which modules are included, what are the tasks you are doing, and what are the tasks that your end customer is doing. And it's your job to monitor and to track and to follow up and to make sure that everything is delivered what is in scope, but that everything what is out of scope but still requested or required in the project will require a change request. And like I mentioned before, risk assessment. Regular, try to sit back, lean back, and for sure assess, are we on track? Is everything fine what we are doing at the moment? But what are maybe the things that might happen there in the future? And I have a few examples for you later, what it can be. So planning and monitoring is, like I mentioned before, mainly the main project management processes, which is scheduling and making sure that the tasks assigned to the different resources are really executed in the project. Then it's risk management and the contract management that we are having there behind. So I will show a few tools today too that you can utilize and you can work with in this project. And we have a lot of this on our portal, and I will actually show it practical and will directly show you how you can download it from the portal itself. So a little bit theory before we are going into a little bit more practice. So the author, Harold Kerzner, defines 16 points that will lead to successful project management, or how he calls it, mature project management. Number one is you need to have a methodology. I mentioned this in our first session, that we are not forcing you to use our methodology. We are offering it to you to help you. If you have your own one, it's fine. If you want to use our one, it's fine. If you want to mix it and use a hybrid out of both of this, is maybe the best solution in doing it there. But the most important thing is that you have a methodology. You need to have a strategy. You need to have a plan, how you want to approach the project and how you want to work during the project to make it successful. So number two is implementing a philosophy that drives the organization toward project management. You need to implement on the customer side too. Project management is not only your job. You need to, and it's an expectation that I always have to all end customers, they need to have a project manager too. And you, as the project manager of the vendor, of the partner, of the implementer, you will need to work very closely with the customer project manager, and you both together have to make this happen and have to make the project successful together. Commit to develop effective plans. You need, but I'm honest there too. I had it in over 20 years project management, and I did a lot of projects by myself. I had it only one time that I developed a project schedule, and we never changed anything until go live. So really day by day, everything was exactly executed this way. That's not normal. Like I said, in over 20 years, it happened once. But a plan is very, very important. And with plan here, I'm focusing on schedule. And having the total schedule for every task, for every meeting, for every session from the very, very beginning of the project. If something has to be changed in the scheduling, for example, then if you have this total plan in place, you can see as well, okay, this is the effect that it has. Maybe I still can catch up on the time if I'm moving something else around, or I have to go back to the customer and say, if you don't have time for the training next week, we need to postpone go live by a week or by 2, because we need the time after it to do the remaining things. So really managing it not only develop the plan from the beginning in total, but manage it during the project very actively on the schedule and the overall plan and deliverables. So try to avoid scope changes. The statement of work, or however you call your contract document, let's call it statement of work because it's how we call it in our methodology. The statement of work as a project manager has to be your Bible. You need to know everything, every term that is in the statement of work, and you need to make sure that first of all you deliver everything, like I said before, but on the other hand, that everything what is outside of what is stated in the statement of work needs to be a change request. And it's change request. I know customers always think, oh, you want money. It's for me not the main part. Yes, we want this too, but it's not the main part. The main part is time. If somebody asked me to develop 10 more reports than originally agreed, I need more time. I need more resources. I need more time. I cannot keep the go live date. And these are things that as a project manager, you have to manage actively. So if a customer comes and said, yes, I know it wasn't in scope and I'm okay to pay for it, let's do a change request. Please always think about the time too that is needed and that it is affecting the schedule of the project too. And this too is, and this is under, you see here under number 5, you cannot split this. Cost and schedule is the same. Like I said, because services we are providing on one side, you want salary, right? And your team wants salary. So services we are providing cost money, and every change we make so will cost money because we have to work more. And it's at the same time, like I mentioned before, it will affect the schedule as well. Just one thing I'm always reacting to. We have a lot of customers who are asking, can you give this for free? Can I have these 3 reports for free? Can you make this customization for free for me? Can I have 1 day more training for free? My definition is there is no free. Somebody pays for it, right? So if I'm giving a developer or a technical resource 3 more reports, I have to pay his salary, right? It's not free. Or ask your developer if he's doing it for free and doesn't want salary for it. I don't believe so. No, so there is no free. And this is something you need to have in your mind too. And it's an expectation too, to set to the end customer and to say, we can discuss this, but we need both to be aware somebody has to pay for it. And maybe the customer can then explain to you why you should pay for it, right? Or your company should pay for it. So important is to select the right person as a project manager. And this is much more a focus on the customer side too. So I see it a lot that the IT admin is the project manager. He doesn't normally have any power to get people into a room when you need them. He doesn't have any power to really escalate if something goes wrong, or decision-making power. I prefer on the customer side to have a functional person being the project manager who is in a manager position and who can make things happen. Because a big task, or maybe your main task as a project manager, is to make things happen. So if your company assigns you to be the project manager in the project, you have the power, right? You can decide when your resources have to be there. Try to make sure too that on the customer side, you get a person that has the same power and can do the same there as well. Very important. So the next point is, and I mentioned this a lot in the first call 2 weeks ago, get the executives involved in the project. Get the decision maker on the customer side involved in the project. Try to get your practice owner, your Acumatica lead, whatever function or however you call the function in your organization, get them involved into the project. Do steering committee meetings. Every month you should organize a steering committee meeting where the two project managers, you and the customer project manager together, updating the senior management. This is what we did so far. That's the actual status. This is what we are planning now for the next steps we are working on. And this is the list of problems we have. And these are the list of problems we have where we need your help to make a decision. Your manufacturing manager asked me to provide 10 more reports. If I do it, I'm fine, but it's not covered by the scope. I need more time and we need to postpone go live. Dear management, please make a decision. Do you want to do it and we go live later? Or can we push it out into a phase 2? Let the management make these decisions, and like I said, organize steering committees regular every month. And from the very beginning of the project, the first ones are often boring. You just drink some coffee and present oh yeah, we did some requirements workshops and now we are mapping, and it's more drinking coffee together than really having something. But let the management get used to this meeting from the beginning. So later when the problems are coming up in projects, and they always come, you can put them there on the table and you can ask them to help in making the decisions. So point number 8 related to the steering committee that I mentioned before. For me, a very, very important tool in every project to do the steering committee meetings. So focus on deliverables rather than resources. So what's the target of the project? The end target is to go live. So how I get there, I have to get the system ready and I have to get the people ready on the customer side. So that's as simple as this and as difficult as this. And focus on this. Don't focus on, oh, now I don't have this person. These are all things not available. These are all things you can solve. And there are solutions and you can move things around and things. You need always keep in mind, what is the real target of this project? What do we want to achieve? In our design document that is on our portal, there's in the very beginning a part where we ask you to ask the customer what their main targets for the project are. And these 3 or 4 targets they give you, you should have in your mind all the time, because this is what you really need to achieve to make it successful and to make the customer happy in the end. Next point, number 10, communication. Communication, very, very important in every project. From your side, inform everybody at all the time what is going on. We often assume that the staff sitting in the warehouse and organizing the shipments know everything what is going on in the project, but they are only involved in very small part of it. So why keep information away from them? Inform them what is going on in the project and utilize the kickoff meeting to motivate them to speak with you. If they have the feeling something is going wrong, or they need something different, or their business process is not supported, let them talk with you. Let them escalate this to you. If you know it, you can react. If you don't know it, you have no chance, and it will be very, very difficult later. Share recognition. This is more a people management thing. If somebody is doing something good, tell them. And if somebody is doing something very, very good, tell everybody. People like this. You like it, right? We all like it if somebody comes and says, good job, what you did there. So do it in the project as well too. Tell people if they perform well. Don't do non-productive meetings. Don't do meetings just because you want to do a meeting. Prepare your meetings professional. Put an agenda together. Put your targets together. That's maybe an important advice too. Before I go into a meeting or in a conference call, I have a lot of conference calls every day. I'm always sitting down for 5 or 10 minutes and think, what is my target for this conference call? What do I want to get out of it? not only at the agenda, right? Not only what I want to talk about. So I'm thinking about, and sometimes I'm even writing it down, what is the target I have with these meetings? This lets you focus more. So, and your meetings will be more successful in doing it. And if you have the feeling, oh, there's a meeting coming and I actually don't really know what to talk about and I don't really know what to get about it, cancel it. Don't do it. Don't waste your time and the time of other people. Then focus on identifying and solving problems early. I saw this, especially in Asia, but in Europe you have this too. People don't like to sit out issues. If issues or a problem is coming up, leave it first. I take care of it later. My experience is, unfortunately, if you do it this way, they are growing. If you attack a problem or an issue in the very beginning, they are normally easier to solve. If you wait until people, even other people realizing it, be getting unhappy because I don't get this function or this is not working, then it's much more difficult to solve it. And really focus on your on measuring the progress of your project for yourself. Sit back, regular, see what was my plan, where am I now, am I on track to achieve the 4 targets or 3 targets that the customer gave me before, and use tools to help you. The tool is not the most important thing, it's a tool, right? It can be Excel, it can be professional project management software. It can be MS Project. It can be Smartsheet or whatever. I have a few examples later. But use it, utilize it. Use tools to help you to keep track on what you are doing in the project and to continue organizing and managing the project in the right way. And not only, like I see it as a training program, I think something very important is with your whole project team, do regular meetings as lessons learned. We learn in every project, and even still I learn in every project that I'm doing. Projects are never 100% the same. And it helps everybody to sit back after maybe once a month, maybe bi-weekly, depends on the size of your project. Sit back, take your team together, discuss what you did so far, and try to learn out of it. Try to learn out of what went well so far, what we did in the project, and what was maybe not so good, and we need to improve in the further progress of the project or in future projects that we are having there. So do this as well, and focus on learning and developing yourself and your team all the time. I think it's part of why we all, I hope you do too, we all like this job, because we always continue learning. Like I said, every project is different, every customer is different, and we are learning every time and all the time continuously again in every project that we are providing. So what are the core tasks meant with your project management or core project management process? So number 1 is the project management plan and schedule, and I discussed this already. The importance to do this, this is your first step. When you get the information, oh, we have a new project, we are implementing, this is the customer, and we decided you are the project manager. Take the statement of work, take the service estimation, and use this base information to put a plan and schedule in place. And then for sure agree this schedule with the project manager of the customer before the kickoff meeting. Then you need a project team, which is normally assigned by your manager, but identify the strengths of the team members. You have to manage them, do an initial meeting, explain them what is the project about. So like I said, out of the statement of work, you can see what mainly to focus on. You can see what are the modules in scope, what's the development in scope, dashboards, and so on. Take your team together, make an initial internal kickoff meeting, and communicate this all to them. Tell them. The developer should know too what's the scope, right? And everybody involved should do this. Plan how you want to communicate. Do you want to do status reports? Do you want to do steering committee meetings, as I mentioned before? Do you want to organize regular status meetings with the customer? Plan this from the very, very beginning, and plan how you want to make sure that that you have the right quality in the project and that the right progress is there in the project. So project plan and schedule. The project plan is two things. So one thing is, and for us, we call it vision and scope document, which you can access on the portal too. The project plan is a tool that helps you to ask the right questions in the very beginning when you meet your customer the first time. What kind of questions are these? For example, what are your main targets of the project? We discussed this before already, right? So what are your main targets? What do you want to get out of it? Why are you spending so much money to implement a new system? What are your reasons? What do we have to fulfill in the project to make you happy with this? The other question is, who are your decision makers by department, by for example, who can make a decision how the warehouse in the future has to be managed? Who can make a decision how you want to do your finance in the future? Who is the decision maker for everything related to sales? So try to find out and add it to this vision and scope document. Try to find out who are the responsible people to talk with from your perspective for the different questions or topics and issues that might come up there. I'm going with you in the end of the session today. I'm going short with you through the portal and show you there where you can find these kind of templates. So then creating your project schedule. And there again, you can use for this, the tool is there not the most important thing. Our estimator, our service estimator on the portal contains a tab with the schedule. So you can use Excel for it if you are familiar with this. In my life, I most of the time worked with Microsoft Project, for example, and scheduled it there because there it's easier to link different tasks. So if you postpone a task, it will show you automatically how it is affecting other tasks that are related to this task that you postpone now and doing things. But it's important to have this in place, and it's important, like I said, to have this in place from the very, very beginning for every single task and for every single meeting in the project itself. Here is an example, and this is from our budget estimator. So here we show first it is more the general, what we talk about today, the planning and monitoring of the project, including the kickoff meeting. Then we have to do the installation. Then the next step is the going through the requirements workshops for the different modules that are in place. And it shows in this estimator that we are having there on the portal, it shows start and end dates on one side for every of these single tasks that have to be executed there. But it shows too the duration of the task. And so duration can be different to the man days, right? For example, if I'm putting 2 people full time for a week to a customer, it's 10 man days that I'm using, but it's only 5 days duration, right? It can be the other way around. Public holidays, take this into account when you develop your schedule. Ask the customer if they have times where they're not available. For example, you don't get the finance team normally at month-end closing time. So ask them from the beginning and try to schedule your project around these times where they are off and won't be able to join there. This is another thing that can help you a lot, and I hope you all know this, that it's existing. If you log into any Acumatica version, you can now download Acumatica from the portal. You install it on your notebook. If you go in this Acumatica in the menu Help and on Implementation, you get very good checklists that will help you a lot in the project. So step by step, it will be explained for the different modules how to set up and configure it. use it from the very beginning, because at the same time it will help you to ask the right questions, right? So you see here the example that I took is the financial setup and configuration. So you, in the first step, you have to define the financial year. So you have to ask the customer, when does your financial year start? Then you have to generate the financial period. So you have to ask the customers, do you have, it's in Asia, it's everything by months. Normally, the financial period is by months. But do you have 12 periods or do you have 13? Are you manage 13 months for closing activities and things like this? So then the posting ledgers, what ledgers do we need? It's only the actual, it's a budget ledger, is maybe a specific reporting ledger. So really step by step, it will help you a lot. First of all, to ask the right questions, but to plan this too. And to help your consultant who is working for you in the project too, to go through the right task. And I mentioned short before quality assurance. You as a project manager can use this checklist and go back to your consultant after the meeting and say, if you were not in the meeting, go back and say, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Is this all available? If this is all ticked up, you know you are on track and it will work. And it's available not for all modules yet. So I think construction checklist is not in yet. We are working on it. But for most of the modules, you have this here included in the in Acumatica. It's in Acumatica. It's not the portal. It is in Acumatica itself under help and implementation. Check it out after the call today. So, and here is another example for planning the project. In more detailed task breakdown. So, for example, the session next week that Sergey will provide will talk a lot about the analysis and design phase. So today you get a little bit of peek what it is about. So here you have the detailed planning about when do I do the business process workshops? When do I do the configuration workshops? So going more into detail to be able to do my design document. When do I do my data migration workshop? When do I do customization workshops? Security setup. So you go through this one by one together with the project manager of the customer. And again, it should be before the kickoff meeting, because it should be something you should present during the kickoff meeting already. And schedule it through, like I said, who it is. And add names behind it. So we kept it here still common under owner. In your plan, there should be a name. So who is responsible to do the business process workshop? Put a name there on your side and on the customer side. So there too, like I said before, you and your project manager on the customer side, you both have to be a team to work together on it. The same you have to do with your functional consultant and the subject matter expert on the customer side. Let your finance consultant build a team with the chief accountant, and they're together. It's their job to make the finance implementation successful, and it will help you a lot. So, like I said, this is part of the estimator, and here it's a little bit zoomed in, where you can see you should track there too. Am I still on track? Was this completed? Where am I in my project itself in doing the different tasks that I defined there in the very, very beginning? Like I said, part of on the portal, you have the templates for it with our suggestion, but don't think it's perfect. We are not living in a perfect world, unfortunately. For example, when I saw the slide before, going back, I'm missing here, for example, a workshop in analysis and design. I miss here a workshop for reports and for dashboards, for example. So think by yourself too, what makes sense for this customer I'm working with now, which workshops we have to provide and which we have to ask a lot of questions about. So, and this is then the high-level overview, and this at least you have to provide in the kickoff meeting to everybody. Everybody should know it. So why? They need to prepare themselves. They need to provide time, right? For example, if I'm taking this one where go live is planned on the 2nd of January, right? This means nobody will be able to take holiday over Christmas or beginning of the new year, because everybody will be needed for go live, right? And we are now in September, like it shows here. So we need to tell them now already, and we need to tell now everybody. So these are the times where the peak times are, where you will be very, very busy, and where we will need you, and where we need your help to make the project successful. So then focus on getting the right people into the project. If you have the feeling the resources assigned to help you are not covering all the skills that you need, escalate it to your management. Tell them, I need somebody who knows how to do budgeting, and the resource you gave me doesn't know budgeting. Can we train him? Can I have somebody else? Can somebody take over only this functionality? Make sure that you have the right people that cover all the skills that you need to make this project successful. Access your people all the time. Project work is hard for consultants too. It's really hard, and most of you did this long time, you know it, right? So make sure too that they are still happy. And if it's stupid things, like take them for lunch or for dinner sometimes. And again, tell them too if they do something good, right? And communicate from the beginning what you expect from them. I mentioned the kickoff meeting, setting expectations to the customer. Set expectations to your project team to tell them, so this is your role and this is what I expect you to do. If you are the person who has to take care of the reports, I want you to do the report design documents together with the customer. I want you to get this signed off by the project manager from the customer side. Then I want you to do the technical specs for it. And then I want you to do the development. I want you to do the internal testing. And then I want you to deploy this to the customer after it's completed. So make very, very clear to every person in your team what his or her responsibilities are and what you expect from them. Very important. And everybody has to plan vacation or personal days off very far in advance. And they only can do it if you have the schedule from the first day and can tell them, oh, I'm sorry, this 2 weeks there is UAT, forget it, there's no holiday. So these are periods, can you move your holidays there, and can you do this in this time period? It's communication plan. So you should put a plan together, again, together with the project manager of the customer, what kind of project communication you want to have, and how often you want to do this, how you want to do this. Are these meetings? Are this by email distribution? Is this maybe a SharePoint site that you can use, or OneDrive, or that you want to utilize for sharing the documents and distributing it? Or are these conference calls? I did a lot of global projects where meetings were just impossible. So there we agreed most of the time a weekly conference call where we discussed everything what is going on in the project with the main resources that are involved in the project itself. So what should be and decide together with the project manager what should be included. For example, your budget to actual communication that you should do will not go to everybody, right? Not everybody in the company should know how much money the company spends for the project. And but other communication is to really go to everybody that they get this all. So put a plan together for this and plan this from the very, very beginning. So do weekly status meetings with the project team. This includes the full team. If I speak about team here, I always mean customer and you to get your team together as one team. Every Friday morning, for example, for 1 hour, we will sit together and discuss the status of the project itself. Use this meeting to generate a status report. And I will show you our template a little bit later. That we suggest you to use. It shouldn't be too big, and it shouldn't be a book, because then nobody wants to read it. It should be a one-pager that says, this is what we did this week, this is what we are planning for next week, and these are the major issues we are working on at the moment. That's all. Send it to everybody who is in the project, and everybody will be involved all the time and will be on track with what is going on in the project itself. And a monthly meeting with project stakeholders. This is what I call the steering committee meeting before. I highly recommend to do this. And you see this cartoon-like pictures there down. This is reality, right? I'm sure everybody is smiling who's seeing it, because it's so typical how things are working, and maybe shows very, very good where the real challenges is. Sometimes customer cannot explain in the way we need to understand things. So we need to have this communication to make sure the customer gives us the right information, we are understanding it in the right way, and then we are designing it, the solution in the right way, and then we are deploying it in the right way as well. Very important. So sample agenda for a status meeting that I mentioned before already. This is what we did this week. This is what we do next week. This is the budget to actuals. You need to agree with the customer side if they want to have it included in the status report or not. Some customers don't want to have this. What are the open items, and review the open issues you are working on at the moment. I agree there, definitely. But it's not it's easier said than done, right? So, and the quality and delivery. Like I said, you need to point out to your team that quality is important. Like I said, tell them what you expect from them, how you want them to work from the very, very beginning, but check it and monitor it all the time as well. So, testing. I think I mentioned this 2 weeks ago when we had our call, if I remember right. We had a project here in Asia where it went very, very wrong after go live because they didn't do a UAT. And if I'm not doing a UAT in a project, the project will go wrong. So I think in 2 weeks we have the session about stabilizing and UAT and how to execute it in detail. I just want to point out here, don't take a shortcut there. UAT, for me, in simple words, is every user has to try his job in the system. So all the configuration, everything has to be completed, and ask every user, do your job. Can you do your job in the system? So they have to do this before go live. And whatever is not configured or set up in the right way will come up, and you have time to fix it. If it's coming up after go live, you have a lot of unhappy people. And this is what we have in this project here in Asia at the moment, a lot of very, very, very unhappy people, and it even affected their business. So extremely important to do this. So kickoff meeting, I said before, I want to speak a little bit about it. We have there too on our portal slide template that can help you with this. So setting expectations, that's number one in the kickoff meeting. Tell them what is the target of the project and how you want to get there. Tell them what is in scope. Tell them what is not in scope. Check the statement of work. Try to step back and try to be the customer and think, so what they might expect, but we actually took it out. One of the points we often have is the customer buys financials, right? And then suddenly they are sitting there and said, why we are not implementing our fixed assets? And then it's not in scope, and it's even not in the license, right? In Acumatica, the fixed assets license is extra. So if it's not in there, it's not in there. And the kickoff meeting is the best chance to tell everybody, so these are the things we will do. This is what is in scope, and this is what we do there. Show there your team and explain the roles. Who is doing what? Try to avoid that they are asking your developer, how are we with budget to actual, to take a stupid example. Try to avoid that they are asking you, oh, can you please do this report for me? Your role is to coordinate it. The developer's role or the technical role is to do the report, right? So making very clear, because a lot of customers replacing ERP system in average globally 7 years, every 7 years. So think about how many of your colleagues in your company are longer than 7 years in the company already. Then you know on the customer side how many maybe have experience with ERP implementation. They don't. 90% of the people you see in the kickoff meeting never did this before. So explain them, tell them, this is how the structure of our team is. These are the people, take them there, show the faces and say, so, and this is John, and John is doing the development work. And this is Mary, and Mary will be your finance contact and is doing the finance part. And my name is Thorsten, and I'm the project manager. Whenever you are unhappy, escalate this to me, and I'm responsible to deliver to you what you are expecting from the project itself. So explain this to them. We discussed developing the initial project plan, show it in the kickoff meeting, show them this is what we are doing, explain them, this is what will happen during analysis and design. We need you to help us come into the workshops. We need you to help us to join these training sessions and so on. Show them the overall project plan from the very beginning in the kickoff meeting to everybody. Tell them how to measure success. So how do we decide in the end if the project was successful or not? The easy answer is, oh, it was in time and in budget, right? I don't think it's a correct answer. It's only a small part of it. And sometimes, if we are not ready, going back to the example I had before, the project where they didn't do the UAT, they actually decided not to do the UAT because if they would have done it, they would not have gone live in time. And this is a very, very wrong decision. The decision should have been, we are doing the UAT and we are going live 2 weeks later. So it's not only being on time and on budget. It's very, very important to show to in the kickoff meeting what are the targets of the customer, why they are doing it. They want to reduce their stock levels. They want to have better real-time visibility of their profit and loss. They want to see between the different stores that they have, what are the stock, what is on stock there and what is not on stock. Show this to everybody. So everybody who is involved in the project understands these are the targets the customer had and these are the main targets for this project, what we are doing here. Show this really on slides in the kickoff meeting itself. So we are coming back to risk a little bit later, but speak about this too in the project. ERP projects are not easy. I'm saying this very, very clear. So it's very important to try to identify what risk, what might happen in the future that can affect the project, and try to put workarounds or plan B is already in place before it really happens. So you are able to react on it. Like I said, I'm coming back from this. Explain to everybody what the communications in the project will be during the kickoff meeting already. So everybody knows you get a status report every Friday. We have a status meeting every Friday, or whatever your plan and schedule for communication is. Explain the methodology. So this is what you learn here in these 6 sessions in our project Thursday. Explain this to the customer. Like I said, assume they never did this before. They don't know how to implement an ERP, right? So explain to them why each of these phases is very, very important. I have this sometimes coming to customers, and when I ask for a meeting to understand better what their requirements are, they say, why you need to come for this here? You need to know this. No, I don't. And here, the kickoff meeting is a chance to explain it. We are the product people. Yes, we are bringing experience from other implementation in, and we can talk about best practices, but we don't know how you work. You need to help us and tell us, this is how I work today, and this is how I want to work in the future, and then we can give it to you. So explain it here from the beginning to the users that we need them in there too, and where and for what do we need them in any of these phases that you see here on the screen. So a few tools you should use. Some examples I mentioned before is SharePoint, for example, to store documents. Confluence is project management software. Smartsheet is a cloud-based project management software where we even have a standard integration into Acumatica with them. So decide from the beginning, what are the tools you want to use, and explain this to everybody in the kickoff meeting. These are the tools we are using. Can be Excel, can be MS Project, like I said. Important is that you decide it together with the customer project manager, and then tell it everybody who is there in the room as well. So schedule your kickoff meeting. So make a date, give it time in advance, and try to make sure that you get everybody in there, everybody from your team, and even the developer is normally only sitting in the back office. And make sure that the customer brings everybody to the kickoff meeting that is involved in the project later. So, and then set your agenda and send the agenda out in advance, prepare your slides for the kickoff meeting to make it successful. Ask the project manager on the customer side to prepare a few slides too, so he can present the targets of the project from the customer perspective too. That's always, from my experience, always very, very helpful if you include them too. So these are the main activities. So 2 weeks ago, I mentioned we have 3 different projects, kinds of projects: express projects for very small projects, for example, only finance implementation, where you have some reduced scope and what you have to do and to deliver during the project itself. Standard implementation is this what we are doing, I think, in 80–90% of the cases. And then we have an advanced methodology for enterprise projects, really large, very complex projects that we are having there. I'm not going through this here now. Like I said, I will show you some of these things in the portal after I'm going through the slides. So speaking a little bit about risk management on this side here, and I want to give you a few examples what this is about. Things are going wrong in projects, right? We all know this. Actually, I always say, if nothing goes wrong in a project, I would be very nervous, because then I would feel like there must be something really wrong, really big wrong, and totally failure that is there. So how can we try to catch some of these things that might go wrong as early as possible? So first of all, the definition of risk is nothing happens yet. So it is trying to guess issues that might come up in the future. So being a fortune teller, right? A little bit in this direction. So the problem is, if it's really happened, it's becoming an issue and it will have an impact. So try to identify this risk early. So if it's coming up, you are prepared and you can react to it as quick as possible during the process. So common risk areas. So some examples in risk that might happen. Communication issues. Somebody is very unhappy sitting in his warehouse doing the shipments, taking this example again, and this what we are implementing there totally doesn't cover his job, but he doesn't speak with you. So not having the right communication in both directions, as mentioned before, from you updating people about what is going on, but from them to giving you feedback about what you are doing, is a big risk in project. Regular communication is, between having a plan and a methodology, for me, is the most important point you have to focus on. Communication, communication, communication all the time in the projects. Lack of project management and executive support on the customer side. This is a big risk too. If you have the feeling the project manager is weak on the customer side, cannot help you to get the things that you need to move forward in the project itself, and if you don't have the management support on the customer side, it's difficult. If this happens, escalate this to your manager and try to find a way with the customer to speak and to address this. So not having a realistic project schedule and plan is a high risk. If the schedule is too tight that you do initially, the first slip somewhere will affect the overall plan. So focus on putting a real good schedule and plan together. And again, I'm repeating myself, I know, but I do it because it's so important. It's agree it with the customer project manager, and say, are you having your people available 2 weeks in October that we can do the training, yes or no? Do this from the very beginning. putting the realistic schedule together. The next point is a very big point too, is change management. ERP implementations are changing the way the customer works. The user have to work different. And it's actually why they bought the software. So they want to improve something, right? That's why they do it. I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, and I'm always saying it. If they don't want to change anything, they wouldn't buy a new software. If I'm happy with my car, I'm not buying a new car. If I'm happy with my mobile, I'm not buying a new mobile. So they are buying an ERP solution to improve their business, which means they have to change things. So the users have to change the way they work every time, all the time. And you need to make sure that the customer understands it. Set this expectation in the kickoff meeting too. Tell them the way you work later is different, but better. Trust us. It will be better. It will be easier for you. It will support your processes better. But focus on it. We call it change management. Focus on it and make sure that the customer side, and especially the customer management and the executive support on the customer side, supports this process. It's very, very important. And the business needs to be involved, definitely. It would be a very, very high risk if you just implement with the IT guys. It never works. The decision maker in the business on the customer side have to be involved in the project. If they are not involved enough, if they are busy all the time and don't have time to join your meetings, escalate this. It's a high risk for the project itself. And testing of the solution. Again, it's not testing if there are bugs, right? That's our internal job, mainly to do this kind of testing. Testing means here, are the business processes of the customer really supported after go live? I was taking an example, and this is 20 years ago in Germany. We implemented, I was involved in an SAP implementation for the utilities company in the town where I'm living. So this company is government owned and provides water, gas, and electricity for everybody who lives in the city. The city has about 200,000 people. I was project manager on the customer side, so not on the vendor side. So I worked for the customer. And after we went live, we forgot one thing. We forgot one thing in the UAT, one very, very essential thing. And I'm speaking here about it because lessons learned, right? I learned out of it. It never happened to me, and it never happened to me in my life after it again. We forgot to test if the invoices are really properly coming out with the right numbers and everything is correct with taxes and everything around. The result was for 2 or 3 weeks after go live, this company couldn't issue any invoice, which means at the same time, they cannot send any invoice to a customer, right? Which means no customer is paying them. 200,000 people are suddenly not paying for their water, for their electric, and for their gas, for heating. If this would have been a private company, they would be in serious trouble with their business if for half a month or 3 weeks I'm not getting any money, right? That's a tough one. It was government owned, so we fixed it. It took 2 or 3 weeks to fix it for the SAP vendor. It was fixed, and then it worked fine, and everything in the end was okay. But I'm telling it because to show you how important testing is, and especially the core business functions have to work after go live immediately. And the other thing, and you know this maybe better than me, data migration is always a big risk in every project. That the customer is not able to provide the data, or if they provide it, it's all wrong. They expect you to do it, but how you want to know if a customer address is correct, right? It's the customer of the customer, and they cannot know it. And and the cutover itself, it's hard work. I'm sure you all worked weekends and the nights through to do the final data migration before the go live date and doing things like this. And it's exactly the same hard work for customers to plan this far in advance, as detailed as you can, how you want to cut over. My personal recommendation is always cut over, no parallel run. I made too much bad experience with parallel runs because the users still like their old system, right? And that's why they do everything correct. and the last 1 hour of the day, they just hack everything into the new solution, into Acumatica, and this is then the quality of data that you get there. So I don't like it personally. I know some customers want to do it and want to be safe. I don't see value in it. I think cut over, being, yes, having a week or maybe 2 weeks hard time to get used to the new system is, in my opinion, still the better way of doing it. So, and this is what you should do if you identify some risk there. It's to point number one, what I call my plan B. So if this risk will happen, what can I do if my finance consultant is getting sick? So what can I do? What are my options? How can I move maybe meetings around or trainings around? Do I have a backup in the office that may be able to help me? Do I maybe have the knowledge that I can jump in? That's the easiest solution there. But trying from the beginning for a risk that you identify in a project, trying to come up with what can I do if this really happens. It will help you a lot, and it will make you as a project manager much happier in the project, that if your finance consultant calls you and says, sorry, I'm sick, you know immediately, okay, this is what I can do. Giving you an example that happened actually yesterday, 2 days ago, here in Bangkok with my team, where we were not prepared actually, but we still solved it. We have here developer training in Bangkok this week, 5 days. And for some reason, there was some miscommunication. And on the second day, we didn't have the room. So everybody came in the morning and we didn't have a training room. Like I said, we didn't identify it as a risk. We were lucky. We just a few blocks down the road, it's another office belonged to the same owner where we could use it, and we got it quickly organized. But if I would have thought about it before, so making sure that the meeting room is all the time available, this is something important for this project. This project is our development training. Then maybe I would have a plan B already in mind and say, okay, if for some reason we cannot use the room, or the electric is down, or whatever the reason is, this is my plan B where I can go then. So try to prepare yourself for things that happen in the future. So manage risk is, you have four options when it's really coming. So number one is try to avoid it. So if I know the room is for me important, then I make sure it's there, right? So and the risk cannot happen anymore. So that's the preferred solution. Or you transfer the risk, which means you give it to a third party, the responsibility. For example, tell the customer to make sure that the room is available, right, in the project. Now I'm taking very simple examples to make it easier to understand. Tell the customer, so these are the dates. Here you have the overall project schedule. This part of the schedule is where we need a room. Please help us to have the room, to have a projector, to have internet connection, and tell them, so push it out. This is one other option that you have there. Then you can mitigate risk. Like I said, have a plan B in place for whatever might happen there later. And sometimes you can just sit there and say, okay, I accept it. That's how it is, and I can't change it. What happens there? For example, if you don't get the senior management joining the steering committee meetings, there's nothing what you can do about it. But then try to minimize the effect that it has on the project, but you won't be able maybe to change this issue itself. Then try to minimize the effect that it has of your project. So what are some of the main risks as examples? So one is slow decision making. If you ask the customer which way you want to work and they need 2 weeks to answer you, this will affect your project. And you need to think about what you do if this happens. What are you doing? So we finished our requirements workshop. Our consultants put the design document in place. We are all happy with it. We submitted it to the customer and we give them a week to send it back to us. What are you doing if you don't get it back? If they don't sign it until then? We send the data migration templates to the customer and say, so please give me all your master data. We want, you have 3 weeks for it. parallel to we doing the requirements workshops, you can start working on it. But this day I need it all so that we can all upload it. What are you doing if you don't get it? Try to, from the beginning, identify what kind of risk are there in the projects, and how you deal with it, and how can you avoid it even happen. Like I said, the best solution is to you avoid it coming up, right? Maybe there too, set the expectation and say, if you don't sign off the design document until next Friday, then we have to postpone the configuration of the solution, and which means in the end we have to postpone go live. So try to avoid it there from the beginning. And then overruns, but overruns is mainly scope, right? And I'm coming back to this in a few minutes and talking a little bit about scope control. If I get more scope, sure, then I have more work, right? The change management, we discussed this already before, or the process owners are maybe not involved enough into the project. This is always a high risk. Testing, we discussed it before. Data migration, we discussed it before, are high risk. And have a very, very professional cutover plan, like I mentioned it before. So I just saw that somebody submitted a question. So let me just check it and see if I can answer this directly. So I'm just reading it now and understanding it while I'm reading, right? So do you recommend documenting risk? If yes, how do you recommend to do it? There are risks that have been laid down to the stakeholders during the meetings, but they choose to disregard it. And then later on, when it actually occurs, they forgot that it has laid down. Yeah, sure. I agree. So yes, definitely, it has to be documented. Where to do it? I think there are two, in my opinion, two main approaches for doing it. One is making it part of the status report that you send every week. So then the status report has 4 parts, right? This is what we did this week. This is what we do next week. These are the issues we are working on, and these are risks we are identified. So, and includes the stakeholders and the senior management in sending out the status report. Yeah, in the distribution list for this status report. The second option is you have, similar to you have an issue register, right? Wherever you do it, is in Excel or maybe on SharePoint or somewhere you need to, or maybe you use Acumatica CRM, the case management to manage your issues. Create the same for the risk and distribute them regular, and or at least give everybody access to it. So there too, it's a communication question. Important, do it in the kickoff meeting. So make everybody used to, during the project, you will discuss risk with them as well. And my main recommendation would be really make it part of the status report that you set out. Say identifying risk, or you put in the status report no risk at the moment, or you put risk inside and say these are risks we have identified, and this is what we think how we want to react on this. Okay, I hope I answered your questions. I will give you a little bit time in the end for some more questions. So contract management, more or less the last point, and then we go a little bit through the portal to show you the templates that we have that you can utilize. So monitor, control project work, which is mainly based on scope and on budget that we are having there, and to manage the billing of the customer. So monitor and control project work means controlling the scope of the project itself, communicating about this, right? The points that you see here on the left side, scope, the risk, your quality management, your schedule, your budget, and your resource status. These are the things you need to be control all the time and be aware of. Is this all on track, or if there's anything going out of track? And if there are any issues, communicate it. If everything is great, communicate it too. People want to know this. I will show the project status template, like I said, in the end. It's easier for me to, instead of swapping with the shared screen around here. So how you manage changes. Everything that changes should have change requests. This is not only money. So if they ask you to do more work, Yes, it's a change request. You need to identify the scope. You need to estimate the man days. You need to get paid for it. But it's true if, for example, they cancel the training and it will affect the overall project schedule. I would issue a change request for it and say and ask the customer to sign on it and say, here, you asked me to cancel the whole training next week, or you didn't deliver the data migration templates in time that we needed. This is affecting the project. It's a change to our overall plan and schedule. Please sign that you accept that we have this change and that it will affect the project overall. When I did projects, but I'm German, right? I'm supposed to be like this. I was very strict with it because I knew when I'm not doing it, it will always hit me back later. We are not going live, and then the management of the customer come, why did you not go live in time? Why is this delay in the project? And now I'm very unhappy with you as a partner, and now I'm calling Acumatica and I will explain. Believe me, we have this relatively regular. And when we look into detail in this there, it's always both sides. And part of it is they didn't sign off the design document, they didn't send you the migration, the data for the data migration, master data in time. So document this. And the best way to document this is in the change request document that is signed by both parties. Control the budget. You have the budget in the statement of work, so you know what are the hours, or here in Asia it's most of the time days, that I have to use. You should have in your organization time entry systems, I assume. If not, try to track it in your Excel file where you do your schedule, include there the numbers. And this is our suggestion how to do it and to keep track on it. So the first number you need to know is how many days I have for the project or how many hours I have for the project. It's in this example that I'm showing here. Let's say it's 500 hours that I have available. So we are short before go live, so not much work left on the project anymore. So my consultants and I myself, we used 422 hours so far already. There's something really wrong with the formula here, right? That's interesting. I didn't see. It's prepared by our US team. So for me, 500 minus 422 should be 78, right? So budget minus actual is 78. So when I do the training next time, I will prepare the slide by myself. So the budget is 78. So 78 is what I have available, right? The 123 here, it's a wrong number, except I have some change requests that I'm not aware of, don't see on this slide. So I have available 78 hours. So my estimate, ETC, is estimation to complete. So for the remaining tasks that we still have to do in the project, I think we need 55 hours. So this means from my 78 minus 55, if I calculate this right, then the numbers are correct again. This means we are having 23 hours still buffer that we can still utilize for other jobs. So we are doing good in this project, and it is fine. We are often, and I saw this often, controlling budget and actual and what I have available. So the first three numbers that you see here, right? This we see many times. But take into account too, what's your estimation of the remaining time you still need, estimation to complete. Then you have a real good visibility. Are you on track to stay in budget or not during the whole process of the project? And very important, billing. You, in most organizations, you as a project manager are responsible to do invoicing. So in the statement of work is in Asia, most of the time we have milestone billing, right? So when the customer signs a design document, we can issue an invoice. It's your job to speak with your finance team to say, so we can issue this invoice now. In time and material projects where I do maybe I issue monthly invoices on the hours that I work together with my team. Again, it's your job as a project manager to control this, to track this, and then every month go back to your finance team and say, here, these are the amount of hours that we can invoice back to the end customer now. So part of your responsibility as a project manager and part of your monitoring during the whole project is as well to make sure to send the invoices out. So again, summarizing, these are the main responsibilities by the different kinds of projects that we are doing. Like I said, mainly we have this the standard projects here in Asia we are working on. So make sure you make the statement of work your Bible. You control the scope and the costs and the targets of the customer that you want to achieve there. And on the right side, you see some of the tools that that will help you with it. And this is what I want to show you now after I'm finishing it. So let me very short stop sharing, and I'm back in a second, just opening our partner portal. So our partner portal, you all should hopefully know it. So I'm logging in now with very normal with your credentials that you have there. I don't know your ones, so I'm using my ones. Logging into the portal, and under services and implementation tools, we are providing a lot of templates for you that you can use and utilize, from the service estimator, the discovery documents that we mentioned before already. And like I said, we sent a new version there before. And a few things then my team will go with you through in the next sessions that are coming up there a little bit later. So what I want to show is the ones for planning and monitoring. So starting, I mentioned this before, we have here a template for the kickoff presentation that you can use in your kickoffs for your customers that you have, and modify. You can, like I said, it's for you. You can add your logo, you can change anything. It's just a template, a suggestion. We just try to help you in doing your kickoff meetings a little bit better in the future. So this is the template that I mentioned. I'm not going through everything in detail here, just show you a little bit how this looks like. And this is a typical agenda. So for a kickoff meeting, so introduction of everybody who's in the room, then speak about the project goals and objectives, speak about the scope of the project, show the schedule, talk about governing principles, speak about risk management, the team and the roles, like I mentioned before, communication, explain the project methodology, show the project roadmap, means the schedule of the project, talk about change management, change requests, how this all works, and about control procedures like status reports, like steering committee meetings and so on. So it's there, and just going to a few slides to show you, there's a little bit behind there too that you can use and utilize in your projects in the future. So back to our the status report. This was the main one I just wanted to short go through with you, and then maybe short going back to the question tool that you had initially related to the risk management. So this is our standard template that we are using and recommending to use. So first of all is this traffic light chart, where you can mark in green, yellow, and red if everything is fine, or if there is something to take care of, or if we are in trouble somewhere. So then we have a short summary of the status meeting. Like I said, my recommendation, do a status meeting with the customer and use this template to keep the meeting minutes, and then send it out to everybody who is involved in the project. So then you show who are the main people involved. So everybody who gets it knows who are the main contact people. Then it's what work was completed last week, what is the work planned for next week, the work in 2 weeks. These are the open issues, and here we have the open risk in here and say, these are risks we are seeing at the moment. For example, the steering committee meeting is always cancelled, or whatever the risk is that you identified, or we are overdue, no, that's an issue already, or we have a concern in getting the data migration done in time because of the complexity of the data to prepare, or whatever it is. And then in the end, it's a summary of the milestones and deliverables that are already done and signed, and maybe change requests that are there, that we are having there. So we are having maybe about 5, this is what I wanted to show here, going back to my slides. We have a little bit time, so if you have any questions, please click on the Q&A button, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Over the next couple of weeks, we will go more into detail of the specific tasks. So like you see, today it was much more focusing on your main role as a project manager. And if you joined the session 2 weeks ago, you might remember that I said the project manager should never be a consultant at the same time. And maybe the session that you just saw now explains why. Your role is very different, right? These are the things you have to control, to monitor. If I'm going back to this overview we had before with the graph here, this one. So you have to control this all, and you have to make sure that this all happens, the scope, the risk management I mentioned before. Take care of your resources, make sure they are available. Push your customer project manager that he makes his resources available. Do the budget controlling, as I showed it in an example. Do the scheduling, follow up on the scheduling, and do the quality control. If this is your job as a project manager, sorry, you shouldn't implement the finance modules at the same time, because this will get you too much into details. How can I set up these payment terms that the finance person of the customer wants to have is one thing to solve a problem in a project. To take care of the budget and the costs overall, it's another one, and it should be a different person, definitely. So I'm highly recommended by me to have this different people, because the responsibilities and the roles are very, very, very different. So what is next? Next week, we have a little bit of change, but the change is only in resource. So Sergey Marinic out of Singapore will be in the Philippines, and we'll do it from there. Will present the part about analysis and design. So we will go more into detail into the tasks to provide during the analysis and design phase, and present more in details the templates, like I showed it short from the portal, the templates that we have on the portal that you can use to make it there successful. Then in 2 weeks, on the 4th of October, Dang, out of our Bangkok office, will speak about the build and stabilize phase. So this will be a lot about how to customize, how to prepare the solution to be ready for your customer, and how to do the testing. So this will be a lot about UAT, and we will talk a lot there about the importance of UAT too. And the last session on the 11th of October will be provided by Napatsanan out of the Bangkok office, where we will talk about the hectic phase of the project, the deploy phase, and then go live, and the post go live itself. So thank you very much for joining today. Like I said, next week, Sergey in Project Thursday with analysis and design phase. And I will send out the recording of this session today to you, I think, tomorrow. Thank you very much for, yes, now we have one question and we still have a couple of minutes. Oh, the question is if I have any templates to provide. They are on the portal, like I just showed. Let me go back there. If you go into the partner portal, under services and implementation tools, there you will see all these templates that we are providing there. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much. Like I said, for joining. I will send out the recording and you will find this all on the portal. Actually, the things that I presented today, you can, if you log into the partner university, into the project management training, I300, there is a PDF file, which is a project management manual. Very, very helpful. So you should log there into and look there. So thank you very much for joining, and I hope I see you all next week again. Thank you.